I've not been in tech for all my life. I've been in the sport world. I've been a volleyball coach for about 20 years. A professor said, "Oh, Francesco, you are nice in the theory, but you'll never be a developer."
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode in the Unblocking Chain podcast series, wherein we'll talk to people in Web3, their journey, and whatnot. So, today we have Francesco with us as our very first guest. Hey there, Francesco. Welcome to the podcast, and I'm super glad to have you here.
And for me, it's an honor. I didn't know that I would have been the very first guest, so it's an honor to be here with you, Etisha, my friend.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know how we met, so it's a very interesting thing how we both met. It was via Twitter space that Francesco organized, and I don't know how Francesco read my comment and I got into the Twitter space, and that's how it all started. So yeah, and I would recommend all the people to follow us on Twitter, not only on Twitter, but on our YouTube channel. And also you can check out francescociulla.com to know more about Francesco. So let's get started with the conversation, Fran. So we would love to know about you. Who is Francesco?
Nice. This is almost a philosophical question. So before I forget, just let me tell you that currently I'm a developer advocate for daily.dev, and I'm also very active, especially on Twitter, YouTube, recently also on TikTok. So it's so before I forget. So let's get started with my journey. So my very first computer, it was a Commodore 64, but I think that maybe we should fast forward, otherwise we will keep going for like 10 hours. So let's keep fast forward. And I've not been in tech for all my life. I've been in the sport world. I've been a volleyball coach for about 20 years. So also, wow. I loved computers, but for me, it was not my job. It was boring. Programming and coding was just boring. I was more used to stay in a gym, we can say. Mm-hmm. But then, of course, I'll make a very short version. In 2015, I decided to step hard into tech. So learning every day. Social media, for me, they were still a waste of time. But I started to learn and to study. I'm also a computer science degree, and nobody cares about that. And my very first role, it was a very important role, we can say, because I've been a full stack developer for the European Space Agency, for the Copernicus project. So I worked with satellites. I'm not an astronaut, by the way, but I worked on the software for the Copernicus project. But of course, it was like a huge project. Almost 50% of the people, they were women. A lot of women, they had like a degree in math and physics. So it was the ordinary developer environment, we can say. Developer were just a part of this project, and it was very good. But then in January 2020, I started using Twitter. And in March 2020, we know what happened. A pandemic happened. Before that, I was doing 3 hours of commute every single day. So it was basically going to work. It was a part-time job. Mm-hmm. And so from since March 2020, I focused on the social media. So I discovered, first of all, Twitter, then YouTube, then Instagram, then Twitch, then LinkedIn, and now it's basically snowballed. So this is why also I'm here today. I'm also a huge fan of Docker. Let me show you this swag that only Docker Captain have. I became a Docker Captain it was I think May or June 2021. So I'll celebrate the anniversary. Docker Captain is basically an ambassador of Docker. And then I started my developer advocate role, first for a company set in San Francisco, and currently for the company daily.dev. So this is the very short version.
Okay, great. Great to know your story, how you transformed from a completely different background to tech. So one question that is coming to my mind right now is, since after so long, after giving 20 years of your career to sport, how come in 2015 something like that struck to your mind and then you got into tech?
This is an interesting question because I always loved being staying in the sport area, and I don't know. In 2015, I was already doing the university, but I didn't like programming. I liked more like math, algorithm, and physics. So I said, okay, what am I doing here? So I had was a bit confused. And at some point, I remember that I did an exam, and a professor said, "Oh, Francesco, you are nice in the theory, but you'll never be a developer." So when someone says this to me, basically, I don't know, my brain really gets tricked. I don't know, get really tricked. So I remember that I came back home and I said, okay, now I want to become a developer. So I want to step into tech for real. Of course, this is just the emotional version, but I have been thinking about that for a while, but that was like the sparkle, we can say, thinking, okay, so let's do it. Do you know, when you don't know what to do and then something happened, you get this as a sign. So I started to say, okay, so now I want to learn programming development. So because I was a great fan of all the math stuff, good stuff, but I really didn't like to code. For me, coding was a very boring activity. So I started alone. Basically, I was a self-taught developer, even if I was doing the university. I started using with the Unity 3D, so game development, because I wanted something which was not boring, of course. And then from that, started learning about backend API. I did a lot of projects. Basically, all my remaining exams, which were the coding ones.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I also failed an interview as an intern. 3 months before working for the European Space Agency, one of the luckiest days of my life, to be honest.
Yeah, I think you are one of the very great example of people who want to get into tech, because I have seen people who have been involved with some occupation which they are not really interested in, but still they are in because they think that, okay, we are getting some source of income from that, and moving to a completely different occupation would require more motivation and also some push. So I think you are a very great example because you did everything on your own. You didn't have much peer with whom you could work with. So yeah, that's really a very inspiring story. And your love for math, I can totally relate to it because I have done my master's in mathematics. So yeah.
Yeah, I was that close to step into math instead of computer science because I didn't like programming. But at some point I decided, okay, so maybe it's better to finish this university. But I was that close to step into math and leave computer sciences. But I'm happy with my journey. But and also my mom is a math teacher, so we
Wow.
have some math in the house.
Great to know that. So, Fran, since you are a developer advocate right now, so I would love to know, what is developer advocacy? People could have different definition, but what is it for you?
This is a great question, and I've done this question, I think, to almost 100 people, and I got 100 different answers. So I'm not taking my answer from any book, but this is a very my own definition, a very simple one. For me, developer advocacy and devrel in general is connections. So for me, it means connect the company and the people of the company with the outside. So you're basically the man or the woman in the middle, in the good sense and in the hacker sense. And basically you are like trying to you should understand what the company needs are and what the users want. So you should basically understand the situation, understand which are the strengths and the weakness of your company. This is an analogy from the sport world, like when you have a team. So I take this as an analogy. And then you should like highlight the strengths of your company and maybe hide the weaknesses, because of course all the companies have some weakness. So this is how I personally see developer advocacy. To be honest, it's also a great opportunity if you want to also grow on social media, if you want to improve your social presence while working. So this is a great, a huge opportunity to basically turn just staying on Twitter into a job. I know that this can sound crazy if you are watching this video,
Yeah.
But that's it. Everything. If you take it seriously, almost everything can become a job. So it's also if you stay on social media, but if you do it seriously, if you provide value, if you share content, if you help people, something will happen for sure. And you can't expect this is going to happen in one day. So, like, people, they want, like, I don't know, huge amount of following, get a job in 3 days. This is not possible. You should be patient. It's like when you exercise. I keep doing analogies with sport. You can't exercise one day and pretend to be fit. You can't eat healthy once and then you pretend to lose weight. You should be patient and work. The results will come, but you need to wait. I'm not saying years, let's say months. Okay.
Yeah. That's a very nice example, and there are a lot of people who want to know how to become a developer advocate. So I think that's a really good start to not only show your presence on social media, but share some stuff which is providing knowledge, or you are giving something to the audience that you're connecting with you.
And I am a fan of attracting a job instead of looking for a job. Of course, it depends. If you have to pay your bills, if you have to help your family, if you have to support your parents, your children, of course, there is nothing wrong in working, in looking for a job, especially a honest job. So you have totally my respect. But your mindset should always be focused on attracting job, and especially, I think, in developer advocacy. This is how I see developer advocacy. So if you're looking for a job, for me, I think it's more important maybe to focus on creating a specific type of content because companies, they have very different requirements. Some companies, they want you to code. Some companies, they want video content. Some companies, they want articles. So I suggest to really focus on do what you can do at your best, and then a company which will have those requirements will look for you. You can be great at writing articles, but if a company is looking for creating video content, probably you are not the best fit. This doesn't mean that you are a bad developer advocate. You should focus on what you can do good. I'm trying to do some decent videos, for example, and also live streams.
Yeah. So, Francesco, how does your daily work looks like being a developer advocate?
Nice. Okay. So I wake up very, very early. Today I woke up almost at 4 a.m. So it's it's a trick. It's a trick to be productive. So usually when I wake up, I take a coffee first of all, and then I create some Web3 content. Then I basically I plan my day. I do many activities. I handle both social media, Twitter and LinkedIn. We are currently doing an hackathon also with prizes, real prizes. I'm creating video content. I'm organizing the monthly event. Every month we have a monthly event, of course, and we have great people as speakers. For example, last month it was about Web3. We had another debit, Vito and Oliver Jumpers, people really knowledgeable about Web3 and other stuff. We create, of course, we work with interactions with people, so we listen to feedback to people sending emails, and we have a huge base of users. Almost 100,000 of users have downloaded our application. So when I also send a newsletter. I send a newsletter to almost to more than 100,000 of people. So think if I made a typo, and so there are many activities. And I never get bored, to be honest. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think the variety of work would not let you keep bored, because every time you would get some new thing to share. And every time the company that you are working with as a developer advocate would welcome your thoughts, your ideas, and I think that's the one thing that lets everyone keep going. And because when we are given the freedom to think, to let our ideas go through, so I think that's the most interesting part for me. I'm not sure of the audience who are watching this video right now, but if it is for you also, then developer advocacy is for you.
Yeah, I made a video yesterday exactly about this topic. I don't know if you have seen that. And it was about that content creation is freedom. And also, I don't know if that's a sign, but I don't know if you know that, but Francesco means free man. So it's also maybe a
Oh.
sign that, yeah, it's a really freedom. And as I said before, you can focus on video content, you can focus on written content, on other type of content. And I think there is also a huge demand about developer advocate, especially in the Web3 world.
Yeah, yeah. So since we have touched Web3 and we also know that you are very much into sharing content around Web3. So what I wanted to know is how did you grow your interest into this domain?
Nice. This is a great question. So, when I was doing the university as a student, we were already studying blockchain because I don't know if it was your case, but also, for example, we have studied the blockchain theory in university. But then I stepped away from the blockchain development, which was also started to become interesting because I had this opportunity to become a developer for the European Space Agency. We have not done blockchain development there. So basically, I kept that on a side. In the meantime, I was also, as I said before, a huge fan of Docker. So basically, I built most of my audience around Docker and memes. And I think it was March or April 2021 that I started to see this Web3. I've seen like a spikes of people starting to share a lot of content. But I said, no, maybe it's not time. I want to focus more on the Docker and DevOps world. To be honest, it was a good decision because after 2 months I became a Docker captain. So this was a good decision. But I kept thinking like, okay, maybe I should start creating content. But will people like that or not? So for now, I just was literally focused on the DevOps part. Then in December, I went back traveling because I think we all haven't traveled a lot in the past 2 years. So I made a trip to San Francisco. So I stayed like one week there. So I was also very good also to relax, to sleep. Basically, it was a very good opportunity for me also to sleep. So I've been thinking of but usually I always say that if you want to learn something, it will be very good to try to learn in public. So share what you're learning. So when I came back from San Francisco, I said, okay, so I'm ready. Probably someone will unfollow me, but I want to diversify my content. And so I started posting about Web3. Of course, usually when you switch your niche, you start sharing something else, some people will complain. But if you are sure, and I was already sure about that, so I didn't care about some criticism. I don't know why there is criticism about Web3, by the way. And then I started creating content. So I created one post, after 3 days, another post, but it was not consistent enough. It has not like that consistency that you want to when you want to really learn something, and also, being connected with more people about the topic. If you post just once per month, it's just basically like an amateur. So basically, I tricked my mind because I have this trick. I really love challenges since I come from the sport world. I don't know if you know that. Sorry for the shameless plug, but I have a series on my YouTube channel when I interview people from the tech world. Etisha is one of them. But I've interviewed like 100 people in 100 days. So this was the challenge that bootstrapped this series. Now we have more than 150 episodes in about 1 year and a half. But the first 100 episodes, they were all every day. People started to call me journalist, no more developer. As I said, I like challenges. So I said, okay, so how can I force myself to create content about Web3 with a challenge? So I think it was the 19th of December. And I said, okay, so usually when I go for a walk during the morning or during the lunch time, I said, okay, so let's do this. Let's say that I'll create one Web3 related content every single day for 100 days. And 100 days, they seem a lot. People say, oh, wow, Francesco. But if we stop and think for a while, it's not that much. It's like the duration of boot camp. It's like, I don't know you, but where we do high school, this lasts like 5 years. So you have to be consistent, especially during the weekends, or maybe you can get sick or you can have some problems. But today that we are recording is the 87th day in raw that I'm creating content. And also I've done a little trick. I've created a GitHub repository with all the posts day by day. So basically you can go on that repository and you can check with your eyes if I'm doing this or not. And I'm not buffering them. I'm just doing this every single day when I wake up. So I turned this into a morning routine, and it's working. It's working because people are recognizing me now as a Web3 expert, which I am not yet. But I'll stay in the Web3 world for a long time because there is so much to learn. And I don't know you, but the more I learn, the more I know that I know absolutely nothing.
No, I do agree. I do agree with that line. Yeah, and thanks, friend. It was really interesting for me as well. Like, I also do a lot of stuff, but then sometime in between, it does not come in my routine, and then I forgot to do it, or sometime I just take it for granted and leave it for the other day. But yeah, the technique that you have told, if anyone who wants to enter not just into Web3 or any other domain of that sort, sharing content is, I think, one of the very good options, because it not only gives you the clarity, but when you share online, people get to know about you, you get to network with a lot of people, and your understanding of things also improves. So that's what I feel, and that's how I'm also trying to share videos on my YouTube channel, thinking that, okay, this is the thing that I know, but how can I let other people also know about the same thing?
Yeah, and of course, I haven't said like I'll create a super thread about. I stayed a bit generic. Like I share one Web3 content. So sometimes I do some very easy stuff. Sometimes some more hard stuff. And also I think that it's good for you, but it's also good for someone else. So, like you become, let's say, if you are super consistent, you became like a sort of inspiration for someone else. And this inspires me, to be honest, to inspire someone else to start. I've seen other people starting this 100 days of Web3 challenge. So I'm super happy. This really makes me very happy.
Yeah, I might start it too, so I'll give that credit to Francesco for sure.
Yes, and this also, this little promise that you make, I've seen my Twitter account to literally explode, because people say, okay, so maybe Francesco will do that, or maybe they just want me to fail, I don't know. But people started following me because they said, okay, so let's see. And this is also a promise that you do with all your audience, followers, friends, that you will share something useful, of course. And also some memes and some jokes sometimes, but at least if you follow me, at least you will get one Web3 content.
And once you start sharing, I don't know how things start coming to your mind, and you go on and start, like, don't stop, because once you have a goal in mind, you know how to do it. Like, you will get something anyway or the other. So that's the best part of the challenges, I feel.
Yeah, and also let me say that with Web3 you will never get bored, because there is so much to learn. Just if you just check the documentation, just of Ethereum documentation, I think that like 20 or 30 posts are about that website, or Solidity documentation, or GitHub. I also use GitHub.
Yeah. So since we are talking so much about Web3 and sharing content, but I think most of the people are confused as to how to get started with Web3. So are there any resources that you have in mind which you can share with other people, that they can go to?
Yeah, of course. There are a lot of resources, way more than maybe 2 years ago. I suggest to maybe focus on the more recent one, because this world really moves super fast. I can share what I have used, of course. This is not any of this what I'm saying they are sponsored. So I've used the Patrick Collins video on FreeCodeCamp, I think 16 hours blockchain. It's better than a Netflix series. Then there is a YouTube channel called DAP University, or DAPS University. Yeah. I can't remember the name of the guy, but he's also very good at also creating videos. And then now I'll say something very boring, Atisha. Ethereum docs and Solidity docs. So Ethereum documentation, Solidity documentation. I know they are boring, but at least I think that's also a source of the content creators. So This is how I have done that. I don't know, maybe because I like math, I like boring stuff, but it's at least I think there is a lot of confusion about Web3. So I prefer maybe to get bored, but maybe have a very long. I've been reading. I've read the white paper. Now I also read the yellow paper of the Ethereum. So there is a lot of stuff. And then let's go a bit into practical stuff, of course, because otherwise we fall asleep. So I loved and I've done the Crypto Zombies tutorial. I've done this on Christmas Eve in 6 hours and a half. So I made a live stream 6 hours and a half because finally I had some time. So I focused on this. I highly recommend. I recommend if you have a YouTube or Twitch channel. I've done this on Twitch to also live stream that. There is no shame. People will also love following you. And okay, so I forget to mention also another debit articles and video. Basically everything he shares about Web3, it's top quality. So I highly recommend to follow him. And his articles are basically free ebooks. So I really suggest to follow them. And last but not least, of course, follow Etisha and me. So a little shameless plug.
I was going to say that don't forget to follow us for more content in Web3.
I stole your line, sorry.
So yeah, that the resources that you have told, I think these are one of the best go-to resources for those who are going to get started into this domain. So yeah, I completely agree with the resources that you have shared. Now, moving more into content creation, we have talked a lot about content creation, but what I want to know is, since you said that your journey started in 2020 and it's very recent, right? So how did your journey start into social media, since you said you were not really a social media person?
No, but but people don't trust me, but you can try to check my social media and see that all the months is like 0, 0, 0, 0 tweets. Then at some points you see a huge spike. So just to let you understand, I'll make a little longer version. So I've been a teacher for the most of my life. As I said, both of my parents are teachers. I've been a volleyball coach. I've been teaching also math, physics, and chemistry to high school sometimes. And so basically I've been a teacher for the most of my life. When I became a developer, I stopped teaching. So I was really missing this part, but for real. I mean, I was struggling into teaching something. I was saying something to my friends, but it was not the same. So when I stepped into social media, I started to share some content, but I mean like just some tips on Twitter. And so I felt like, I don't know, if you're a teacher, you understand me. You feel that I really felt very good. So I said, okay, so maybe I was really super shy. Now I'm shameless, but I was really super shy. But the wish to teach to people, because for me, teaching is a mission. So the wish to teach to someone, it was stronger than my shyness, we can say. So I started creating just some posts. Then I started creating some articles, and then day by day, finally, let's say I destroyed that wall, and I've created my very first YouTube video. It was very hard, and but this is the reason. So basically, creating content brought me back to content creation and teaching. So it's this is the main reason why probably I'm here now as a guest in your YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's so good to know that teaching was the main motive of you coming on, showing your face on YouTube, because people find it very difficult, those who are shy especially, to come in front of the camera, talk about stuff. But I think that gives you a different level of confidence once you start doing it. Since we are talking about sharing content, and not just me, but all of the people who will be watching this video, they can say with confidence that Francesco is the one who shares content on almost every social media handle. So be it LinkedIn, be it Twitter, be it YouTube, Twitch, I have seen Francesco everywhere. So what my question is to you, for all the aspiring content creators out there, is how do you manage sharing content on different social media handles, and that too with consistency?
Clones. No, I'm joking. Okay, so this is a great question, by the way. And by the way, I think today is the perfect day to answer this question. And now I'll explain you why. So, what I try to do, first of all, if you are very new of content creation, I don't suggest you to open up 5 or 6 social media because it's really hard. It's really hard. I can do this because I am a developer advocate, so I'm getting paid to stay on social media, so I can stay on different social media. But if you don't have a job, or if you're looking for a job, or if you're not a social media expert, like I was not, I'm still not, but I highly suggest to focus on one social media. I've been just focusing just on Twitter in the first 6 or 7 months, and it worked. I reached like I think 30,000 of followers, but I had just Twitter back. And then I started YouTube. So I tried, for me, when I start a new social media, it's like something that I'm adding. So okay, so now I'm also YouTube. 8 days ago, I also started my TikTok account, and this is crazy. By the way, I highly recommend to start one as soon as possible. So how do I do that? Usually, I start on one platform. For example, let's say my main platform now is Twitter. So I want to share a content on Twitter. So this is a must. This is a rule. I want to share something there, and this is what I've done. But then after a while, I try to add something. For example, today I've done something which I never did. Basically, I created a thread about blockchain. So it was something very basic, but people really loved that. So it was a thread with visuals about blockchain. And half of the time it was to create the visuals. I think more than half the time. So I created a thread of visuals. Then I shared this thread also on LinkedIn, just the first. If you create a tweet with an image, and if you post this on LinkedIn, it will show the picture.
Right.
I've done also something that I've not seen done this a lot, but for example, I also use the YouTube community to share some posts with the link of the Twitter. So I also do this. It's also on GitHub because I've created the link of the Twitter. I create a list of the content. And then, of course, on Instagram, I've created a carousel, I don't know how to call that, with all the images. It went well. And last but not least, I also shared the carousel of images on TikTok. I don't know if this makes sense, but anyway. So I've used, basically, what I'm doing is I'm experimenting. I don't know. What I've shared today on TikTok. I don't know even if that makes sense, but I want to say this because I've seen a lot of people, and I was one of them, that sometimes we are really stressed on, okay, how can we do this very single piece of content? How can I share this tip? It should not be about that, but we should like zoom out and think like in big. So. And so I'm always doing experiments. For example, sometimes I share on YouTube these like images, or I share some stuff, or I share some posts. So I think social media, it's all about experimenting, and you should not be ashamed that something works, something doesn't. But if you don't try, you don't know. So sometimes I just try to post something which is a bit different.
Yeah, and I would highlight one of the point that you mentioned, that when we start thinking about creating content on multiple social media channels, then creating a content at one place and sharing it in different forms on other channels can help you achieve that thing, because obviously one single person cannot create multiple posts for different social media handles in a day. That could be really tiresome, and if you go on doing that, I think you are going to make yourself tired, and within a day or two you would be done sharing content.
Yeah, and of course, especially if your parents are not millionaires and you have to pay your bills and your mortgage, like is my case. I'm sorry, but my parents are just teachers. So if you have to take care about your family, so that's of course a priority. Of course, if we were just billionaires, we can just sit here, talk about what content do we want to create. That would be totally different. But for the 99.99% of the people, it's not like that. They have jobs, they have problems, they have families, they have something to take care. I highly recommend to don't consume yourself to create content. Creating content should be just an activity, a hobby. You should really enjoy doing that. And if you can do that, if you do what you can, and then you will see you can always improve, you can reduce based on what you're doing. If you get sick, do you know that content creators can get sick, also YouTubers?
Right. And this is a very good tip for the newbies who are entering the space of content creation, because initially we think that it's good that we create, like if we create the content on a daily basis, that would give us more boost, that will like increase our confidence. But yeah, if you don't feel like it, don't pressurize yourself, because the content that you will be creating under pressure, that will not in any way help you or the other person who is going to consume your content, right?
Absolutely. Content creation is a creative activity. You can't like force yourself. Okay, now I need to draw this painting. It doesn't work like that. Or now I have to create this music. Usually you create the best pieces of art, because what you create is a sort of art when you are inspired, when you are good, when you are in a good shape, when you sleep enough. So this is where you can express yourself at the very best. Being consistent, of course, it's a hack, because especially, I don't know, if you create a series, a podcast, I do one interview almost every week, and people know that there is that. Or for example, now I'm planning creating like weekly activities on different social media. So creating a weekly activity, it's good for your audience because they know, or maybe they can save the spot for you. And
Right.
so I think it's way better than maybe do something, I don't know, like 10 hours and then you stop. This is the same as development.
Yeah, that's a really great advice for creating content. And that brings me to the end of this podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you, Francesco. Like, starting from your journey, ending to content creation, I think whoever is going to watch this video, they're going to get a lot of good information from you. So, any last word for the audience?
Yeah, the last word is that don't stress yourself, and instead of stress yourself and say, now I have to create content, otherwise my life will be a failure. Try to put yourself in the best condition, both mental and physical, to create content. So, because once you will have you stay fit and you'll have less stress, content will come out automatically. There is a lot of stuff when we create content. Focus on what you really like. Don't create content just for the seeking of creating content. Usually I make this analogy. Don't cook a cake just to share a picture on Instagram. Just cook a cake if that's good taste, of course. That should be the idea. And also, just the last thing is that when you become a content creator, usually you start supporting content creators more. For example, what you can do is to like this video and leave a comment to support Ciulla, since this is also the first episode. So come on, that's not hard. I've noticed that when I started my YouTube channel, I started to give way more likes and comments. I don't know if it's the same for you, but it's very important to help the content creators. Support the content creators, please.
Yes, and don't forget to check out Francesco's YouTube channel and also the different social media handles he is in. If you want to know more about his presence on social media, you can surely check out francescociulla.com. So thank you so much, Francesco. It was nice having you. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Nice. Bye-bye.
Bye.